According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, the Krovar Imperium's supreme intimidator stood before the human, channeling fear energies that had broken entire civilizations, and the human asked if he wanted a breath mint. "Seriously, no judgment," David Martinez said, fishing through his pocket. "I keep these on me for work, customer service, you know. Long shifts, lots of talking." Zilax's three primary eyes blazed with crimson intensity, veins of pure terror light crawling across his ceremonial armor like living things. The temperature in the council chamber dropped 15 degrees. Shadows deepened into physical manifestations of dread. The very air screamed. David found the mint tin. "Aha, here we go. They're peppermint. Want one?" In the observation gallery, Kaeldra's recording stylus fell from her trembling appendage and clattered against the crystal floor. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent chamber like a death knell. This is impossible," she whispered into her emergency communicator. "Council command, we have a code Crimson. Supreme Intimidator Zilax deployed full Class 7 terror protocol 30 seconds ago. The human is unaffected. Repeat, the human is offering him candy." The communicator crackled. "Observer Kaeldra, confirm your statement. Did you say unaffected?" "Completely unaffected, Command." He's smiling. He looks concerned. For the Supreme Intimidator's dental health. Across the chamber, 14 council members sat frozen in their ceremonial seats, each one a master of their respective dominion. They had convened this emergency session because the appearance of humans in their sector threatened everything, not through weapons or technology, but through the terrifying rumors that had preceded them. Rumors that now appeared to be horrifyingly, impossibly true. Humans couldn't be intimidated. For 10,000 years, the Krovar Imperium had maintained galactic order through a simple principle: fear. The intimidation hierarchy governed 300 species across 72 sectors. It was elegant, it was effective, it was the bedrock of civilization itself. And this human in his slightly wrinkled button-down shirt was shattering it with breath mints. Zilax intensified his assault. The fear emanations doubled, tripled. Psychic pressure that had reduced the war masters of the Drellian horde to weeping children, the technique that ended the Velcran rebellion in 7 minutes when their entire command structure collapsed into catatonic terror. David popped a mint into his own mouth. "Okay, I'm getting the feeling you're upset about something. Do you want to talk about it? I'm a pretty good listener. Comes with the job. You wouldn't believe some of the calls I get." "You dare!" Zilax's voice resonated with the accumulated anguish of 1 billion conquered souls. The walls trembled. Lesser beings in the observation gallery lost consciousness. 3 emergency medical teams rushed to their aid. David remained standing, head tilted slightly, expression shifting to genuine confusion. "Is this like a cultural thing?" he asked. "Because I don't want to be insensitive, but you seem really stressed. Are you okay?" "Do you need to sit down?" Council member Vexthol rose from his seat, all 4 of his hands gripping the podium in front of him. "Supreme Intimidator, perhaps we should consider—" "Silence." Zilax didn't even glance at the council member. His entire focus remained locked on the human. Sweat, the first time anyone present had seen such a thing from the Supreme Intimidator, beaded across his ceremonial markings. "This human will break. They all break. There has never been an exception. Not in recorded history. Not across 300 species. Not once." He raised both primary arms, and the emergency klaxons began to wail throughout the station. "Code Black!" Kaeldra shouted into her communicator. "He's escalating to existential dread protocols. Clear all adjacent sectors. This is not a drill." The power grid flickered as Zilax drew upon reserves meant only for species-ending scenarios. Reality itself seemed to thin around him. The very concept of safety eroded. Every living being in a 50-kilometer radius suddenly knew, with absolute certainty, that nothing would ever be okay again. David frowned slightly and rubbed his arms. "Is it getting cold in here? The AC in my apartment does this thing where it just blasts randomly. Super annoying. I keep meaning to call maintenance, but you know how it is. Kaeldra's stylus clattered to the floor again. She hadn't realized she'd picked it up. Observer Kaeldra. The voice through her communicator had changed. This was High Command now, the Council of Seven, the ones who made decisions affecting quintillions. Confirm current readings. Is the Supreme Intimidator experiencing fear? She checked her instruments with shaking hands. The biomonitors tracking Zilax's vital signs told an impossible story. Confirmed, High Command. His terror response indicators they're off the scale. His own fear production organs are detecting threat from the human. In the chamber, David had moved closer to Zilax, close enough that the Supreme Intimidator's reality-warping emanations should have stopped his heart. "Hey, listen," David said gently, the same tone he used for particularly difficult customers who just needed someone to acknowledge their frustration. "I don't know what's going on here, but you seem like you're having a really rough day. I've been there. Last Tuesday, this lady called about her cable bill, spent 3 hours screaming at me about charges she definitely authorized, and I just had to breathe through it, you know? Sometimes people just need to vent." He held out the mint tin again. "Take one. Seriously, it helps." Zilax stared at the small metal container like it was an incomprehensible artifact from dimensions beyond understanding, which, in a very real sense, it was. His hands shook as he reached for it. In the observation gallery, 7 different species experienced simultaneous religious crises. "What have we done?" whispered Council Member Jotaro, her ceremonial robes suddenly feeling like a mockery. "What have we done? We built everything on fear, and they're immune." The communicators across the chamber erupted simultaneously with the same message from High Command. "Emergency conclave. All council members. Immediately, the human situation is now priority omega. The Imperium is at existential risk." David, oblivious to the cosmic significance of the moment, smiled encouragingly as Zilax took a mint with trembling fingers. "See, sometimes the simple stuff helps the most. Now you want to tell me what this is really about? Because I'm getting the sense this isn't actually about me at all." Zilax crushed the mint between his teeth, more from stress than intent, and made his decision. He would not fail. He could not fail. 10,000 years of Imperium history depended on breaking this one unremarkable human. He activated his Class 7 terror wave. The technique had a name in the old tongue that translated roughly to the ending of hope. It had obliterated the military command of 14 star nations in the sector wars. Exposure for more than 3 seconds caused permanent psychological collapse. 5 seconds meant catatonia. 10 seconds meant death. The wave erupted from Zilax like a tidal force of pure existential horror. David's hair ruffled slightly. He tugged at his collar. "Man, is the ventilation system broken? It's doing that thing where it blasts cold then switches to hot. Same problem we have at the call center." He fanned himself with one hand. "You'd think with all this advanced alien technology, climate control would be figured out, right?" In the observation gallery, Kaeldra vomited into her ceremonial documentation vessel. "This isn't happening," she gasped. "This cannot be happening." But it was happening. The readings were impossible, but they were real. The Class 7 terror wave, confirmed active, confirmed at full strength, was washing over the human like a mild breeze. David's biological readings showed slight annoyance. The emotional state one experiences when waiting too long in line. "High Command, this is Observer Kaeldra. Permission to request immediate Master Intimidator support. Supreme Intimidator Zilax is..." He's faltering. The response was immediate. "Granted. Dispatching Master Intimidators Korvax, Arhil, and Vex Thul. ETA 40 seconds. Councilmember Jotaro stood abruptly. "You're calling in 3 Master Intimidators? Together? That's never been done. The combined effect could crack the station's hull." The alternative, High Command's voice carried the weight of absolute authority, "is accepting that our entire governmental structure is obsolete." The air shimmered as 3 figures materialized through emergency teleportation. master intimidators, each legendary in their own right. Korvax, who had single-handedly suppressed the Yeltrin uprising across 40 worlds. Rahil, whose mere presence had prevented 17 wars through the certainty of annihilation he projected. Vexthul, who made weapons obsolete because fear was more effective. They stood in a triangle formation around David Martinez, customer service representative from Earth. "Oh," David brightened. "Are you guys doing a team-building thing? We do these at work sometimes. Trust falls, group activities. Honestly, they're pretty awkward, but management insists they help with cohesion." "This human demonstrates mental deficiency," Korvax stated. "There can be no other explanation." "Scans show completely normal human cognition," Kaeldra called down, her voice cracking. "He understands the situation. He just doesn't register it as threatening." Rahil's voice carried the sound of dying stars. "Then we educate him on the meaning of threat. Together. Now." All 4 intimidators struck simultaneously. The combined assault created a psychic pressure wave that shattered observation windows 3 sectors away. Emergency shields across the station activated automatically. The nearby moon's seismographs detected the pulse. Every organic being within 1,000 kilometers felt a primal, overwhelming urge to flee into the darkness of space and hide forever. David blinked a few times and shifted his weight. "Okay, so this is definitely some kind of thing you guys do. Like hazing? We had this manager once, Marcus, total power tripper, who used to try to intimidate new hires to test their mettle or whatever." He made air quotes. "Super unprofessional. HR eventually got involved." Vexthul's composure cracked first. His fear projection organs were screaming warnings at him. Danger, predator, flee. But there was no predator. Just a human in business casual talking about human resources departments. "What are you?" Vexthul whispered. "Me? I'm David. We met like 5 minutes ago." David looked around at the 4 intimidators. "Listen, I feel like there's been some kind of miscommunication here. Are you trying to scare me? Is that what this is?" The 4 intimidators exchanged glances. Millennia of training had not prepared them for a target who simply asked the question directly. "Yes," Zilax said, and the admission felt like defeat. "We are attempting to intimidate you. It is what we do. It is what we are." "Oh," David's face cleared with understanding. "Okay, that makes way more sense. See, communication, that's key. Should have just said that from the start." He laughed, a genuine sound that somehow made the cosmic horror in the room feel slightly ridiculous. "Man, you guys went all out too. The lighting effects, the temperature changes, the whole atmosphere. Really committed to the bit." "This is not a bit," R. Hill's voice trembled, "something that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. We have broken armies with less effort than we have expended on you." David considered this. "Huh. Well, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but it's not really working. I mean, I can tell you're trying super hard, which I appreciate. Effort counts for a lot, but I'm just not feeling it. No offense." Korvax's primary sensory organs were now detecting something that made his blood freeze, his own fear. He was afraid of the human's lack of fear. The absence itself had become a threat. "This is insane," he breathed. "His brain should be liquefied. His consciousness should be scattered across dimensions. How is he talking?" David pulled out his phone. Somehow it still worked, despite the reality-warping energies filling the room, and checked the time. "Look, I've got a dinner reservation in about 3 hours, so maybe we could speed this along. What exactly do you need from me here? Because if this is some kind of stress test or psychological evaluation, I should tell you, I deal with angry customers 40 hours a week. Last month, a guy threatened to find where I live because his streaming service buffered during the season finale of his show." He looked at the 4 intimidators with something approaching sympathy. "Compared to that, this is honestly pretty chill. You guys seem nice, intense, but nice." In the observation gallery, 3 council members were crying. The implications were cascading through their understanding of the universe like dominoes made of foundational principles. Kaeldra's stylus moved across her tablet in mechanical motions, documenting the end of everything she'd ever known. Note for historical record, she spoke into her recorder, voice hollow. 4 master intimidators, combined assault, full power, human response. Pretty chill. Requesting that someone tell me what we do now. Please, anyone. The communicator remained silent. No one had an answer. The ancient fear masters arrived in silence, which was somehow worse than any dramatic entrance could have been. There were 5 of them, each over 3,000 years old, preserved in meditation chambers beneath the Imperium's founding world. They had been there since before most current species achieved spaceflight. They were the originators of intimidation science, the architects of the fear hierarchy, beings so terrifying that historical records referred to them only as the first dread. They materialized in the chamber like living shadows given form. David pulled out a notepad. Oh, wow. Are you guys doing a historical demonstration? This is actually super interesting. We don't have anything like this on Earth. Well, except maybe Renaissance fairs, but that's different. The lead fearmaster, whose name had been forgotten millennia ago in favor of the title Void That Hungers, spoke in a language that predated modern linguistics. The words bypassed ears entirely and carved themselves directly into consciousness. We are the terror before terror had name. We are the darkness that dreams fear. We are... Sorry, hold on. David was scribbling notes. Can you repeat that last part? I want to make sure I get the phrasing right. This is genuinely fascinating from an anthropological perspective. Cultural intimidation practices across species. That could be a whole research paper. The void that hungers paused. In 3,000 years of existence, no one had ever asked it to repeat itself. We are the darkness that dreams fear. Perfect, got it. David looked up with an encouraging smile. Please, continue. I'm taking notes. Kaeldra's emergency communicator was now receiving direct transmission from the Council of Seven themselves. Observer, what are we witnessing? I believe the human thinks this is an educational opportunity. High Command. He's taking notes. The ancient fear masters exchanged glances, a gesture so disturbing that it caused 3 master intimidators to look away. They had faced the worst horrors the universe could produce. They had stared into entropy itself and made it blink first. They began the primordial rite. Reality bent, time stuttered. The fundamental forces of nature reconsidered their allegiances. Every being in the sector experienced a sudden, overwhelming certainty that existence was a mistake and oblivion was mercy. David looked up from his notes. Okay, I'm feeling something now, like pressure behind my eyes. He rubbed his temples. Oh man, this is just like the migraines I get during peak call volume. You know what helps? Hydration. You guys need to drink more water. For real. Most people are chronically dehydrated. The void that hungers made a sound no living being had ever heard it make before. It whimpered. I don't understand, David said, genuine confusion crossing his face. Are you trying to scare me? Because, and I really don't mean this as an insult, but I deal with scarier stuff like daily. Have you ever had someone call you 63 times in one shift about the same resolved issue, while screaming? That's terrifying. That stays with you. Zilax felt something inside him break, not his body, deeper, the core belief that had defined his entire existence. Human David, his voice was barely a whisper. What you describe, this is normal for your species? Oh yeah, customer service is rough, man, but honestly? David laughed. It's not even the worst job. My sister's a teacher. Teacher. You want to talk about intimidation? Try controlling 30 teenagers who don't want to be there. She comes home some days looking like she survived a war. Teenagers? Erhil asked weakly. Young humans, going through hormonal changes, developing their identities, testing boundaries. They're basically walking chaos engines, and we just put one adult in a room with 30 of them. For hours. Every day. 3 of the ancient fear masters sat down, simply sat, right there on the floor, as if their legs had forgotten how to work. "This cannot be," the void that hungers said, and its voice sounded almost plaintive. No species could function under such conditions. The psychological toll— "Oh, it's definitely rough," David agreed. "That's why we have therapy." "Well, when we can afford it. Health insurance is a whole other nightmare." He paused. "Actually, you want to talk about real terror? Let me tell you about something we call Karen." For the next 5 minutes, David explained the phenomenon of entitled customers, the demands to speak to managers, the threats of corporate complaints, the ability to sustain outrage over trivial matters for hours. 2 master intimidators quietly excused themselves and did not return. "And this happens frequently?" Korvax asked, his voice hollow. "Oh yeah, retail, food service, customer support, anywhere humans interact with other humans in a service capacity, you're gonna encounter Karens. We just deal with it. Part of the job." "How?" Vexthul demanded. "How do you maintain sanity? How do you not collapse?" David shrugged. "Same way we deal with everything else on Earth, I guess. You just adapt." He pulled up his phone and started showing pictures. "See, this is where I grew up. Florida. We have hurricanes. That's when the atmosphere tries to kill entire cities with wind and rain. Happens every year. This picture's from Hurricane Andrea. Lost my car and my apartment's roof. Still had to go to work the next day because bills don't stop for natural disasters." The council chamber had gone completely silent except for David's voice. "Oh, and we have things called mosquitoes. Tiny insects that drink your blood and spread diseases. They kill about 1,000,000 humans a year. Can't even see them coming half the time. And spiders, not as deadly, but they're everywhere. Australia has spiders that can kill you, just living in houses. Normal houses." Zilax was experiencing something new. His fear production organs, designed to generate terror, were now receiving it. For the first time in his life, he was truly afraid. "Your planet is trying to kill you," he whispered, constantly. "Well, yeah." David scrolled through more pictures. Tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, droughts, wildfires, avalanches, volcanoes, bacteria that'll eat you from the inside, viruses that spread through the air, predators, bears, sharks, crocodiles, hippos. "Oh man, hippos kill more people than sharks. Isn't that wild? They look so harmless." He showed a picture of a hippo. The ancient fear masters recoiled. "That exists on your world? That killing machine?" "Yeah, they're herbivores. Plant eaters. The plant eaters are deadly. Don't even get me started on the actual predators." David swiped to another picture. "This is a polar bear. This is a saltwater crocodile. This is a box jellyfish. Basically invisible, and its sting causes pain so bad people go into shock and drown, and we just swim in the ocean, knowing these things are there, because it's summer and it's hot." Kaldra was crying again, but this time from a different emotion. Horror. Pure, undiluted horror at what humans considered normal. "Human David," the void that hungers spoke slowly, carefully. "Your species evolved under these conditions?" "Yep. Actually, it used to be worse. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, mega-predators everywhere. We just kind of outlasted them." He grinned. "Persistence hunting. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we just keep going. We're like the horror movie villain that never stops chasing you." The fear hierarchy inverted in that moment. Everyone in the chamber felt it, a fundamental shift in understanding. They weren't the intimidators here. They were facing a species from a planet that made their worst nightmares look gentle. "This explains everything," Korvax breathed. "You're not unaffected by fear. You've just already faced worse, every day of your lives." "Pretty much," David agreed cheerfully. Then his expression shifted. Something subtle, but every alien in the room felt it like a temperature drop. He gave them the look, the disappointed parent look, the one his mother had perfected, the one that communicated, "I'm not angry, just disappointed," in a way that was somehow worse than anger. The entire intimidation corps experienced existential terror. "Now," David said quietly, "are we going to keep playing these games, or are we going to have an actual conversation about what you really want?" Zilax realized he was trembling, not from power, from fear, the disappointed parent. Look faded, and David's expression returned to its default setting, friendly customer service professional. But the damage was done. Every being in that chamber had just experienced what actual intimidation felt like when delivered by someone who'd evolved in hell and refined it through corporate training. "Okay, real talk," David said, gesturing for everyone to relax. "Let me explain something about human professional development, because I think it'll help you understand why this whole intimidation thing isn't landing." He pulled up a chair. Somehow one had appeared, probably from terrified staff, and sat down like he was starting a workshop presentation. Which, in a way, he was. "So, customer service training, basic requirement for my job. First thing they teach you, emotional regulation under extreme stress. You know what that means. It means staying calm, polite, and helpful while someone screams obscenities at you for 45 minutes because their internet is slow." Kaldra was frantically recording every word. "They train us in de-escalation techniques, stress management, conflict resolution, and, this is important, how to maintain composure when someone is deliberately trying to upset you. Because that's what Karens do. They're not just angry. They're strategically angry. They use emotional manipulation, threats, personal attacks, everything in the playbook." Vexthul leaned forward despite himself. "And this is standard employment training? For customer-facing jobs? Absolutely. Retail workers, food service, call centers, hospitality. Millions of humans do this every single day. We're basically receiving anti-intimidation conditioning as part of our job requirements." David laughed. "I've had a lady tell me she hopes my family dies in a fire because we couldn't refund her expired coupon. I said, 'I understand your frustration, ma'am. Let me see what I can do for you.' That's the training. That's every day." The ancient fear masters looked at each other with something approaching horror. "Your species weaponizes customer service interactions?" the void that hungers asked. "Weaponizes? No, that's normal human-to-human interaction in commercial settings. It's not even considered particularly hard." David scrolled through his phone again. "My buddy Jake works Black Friday sales." "You know what Black Friday is?" The silence suggested they did not. "So once a year, we have this shopping event where stores offer huge discounts. Millions of humans descend on retail locations simultaneously. It's like a coordinated civilian assault. People get trampled. Fights break out over discounted electronics. Security has to form barriers. Jake describes it like military crowd control, except the crowd is armed with credit cards and determination." "This is recreational?" Arhill asked weakly. "Shopping?" "Yeah, we do it for fun." David paused. "Well, Jake doesn't think it's fun anymore, but people definitely line up voluntarily for this experience." Zilax sat down heavily. His entire life's training, his identity, his purpose, all of it was crumbling. "Human David, I have spent 400 years mastering the art of intimidation. I have studied under the greatest fear masters. I have brought proud civilizations to their knees. And you're telling me that any random human with customer service experience is functionally immune to my abilities?" I mean, David looked genuinely sympathetic. "Yeah, kind of. Sorry, man, it's nothing personal. It's just, Earth doesn't really let us be intimidated by much. The planet's too dangerous." He started counting on his fingers. "Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, avalanches, floods, droughts, wildfires, blizzards, heat waves that kill thousands, Cold snaps that freeze entire cities, and that's just weather. We've got diseases, malaria, tuberculosis, HIV, COVID, flesh-eating bacteria. We've got predators. We've got other humans, which are honestly the scariest thing on the planet. Other humans? Korvax asked. Oh yeah, wars, crime, terrorism, drunk drivers, corporate malfeasance, political corruption, internet scammers. Humans are really good at being threats to other humans. We've had to develop pretty thick skins just to exist in society. David leaned back in his chair. Plus, we've got this thing called rush hour traffic. Every day, millions of humans climb into metal boxes traveling at deadly speeds, inches apart, trusting that everyone else won't make a mistake that kills them, and we're usually angry about it because we're late. That's our baseline stress level before work even starts. The council chamber had descended into what could only be described as a mass existential crisis. Council member Jotaro spoke into the stunned silence. High Command, I'm formally recommending immediate cessation of all intimidation protocols regarding human contact. Our entire governmental framework is obsolete. Agreed, came the response. Emergency council session convening now. All members report immediately. We need to determine how governance functions when fear is no longer a viable tool. David raised his hand like a student in class. Can I make a suggestion? Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Have you tried just asking nicely? The silence was profound. Like basic respect, clear communication, explaining what you need and why. That works pretty well with humans. We respond really positively to being treated like, people. Zilax felt something shift in his understanding. Not a breaking, but a transformation. You mean diplomacy, mutual respect, cooperative frameworks? Sure, if you want to use fancy words. David grinned. But yeah, most humans are pretty reasonable if you don't start by trying to terrify them. Just talk to us, explain the situation. We're usually happy to help. The void that hungers rose slowly. When it spoke, its voice had changed. Less cosmic horror, more genuine curiosity. Human David, your species has fundamentally invalidated our approach to governance. What you're suggesting would require complete restructuring of Imperium protocols. Probably, David agreed. But hey, silver lining, you won't have to maintain this whole intimidation infrastructure anymore. Seems exhausting. You guys must be stressed all the time. We are, actually, Arhill admitted. The psychological toll of constantly projecting fear while suppressing our own emotions is considerable. See? There you go. This could actually be better for everyone. Kaeldra's communicator chimed. She listened, then announced, "The Council has reached a decision. Effective immediately, humans are designated as fear-immune species under Protection Protocol 7. No intimidation attempts are to be made against any human. Treaty negotiations to begin within the hour." David stood up and stretched. Cool, that sounds way better than whatever this was. No offense, but this has been kind of weird. Zilax approached him slowly. The Supreme Intimidator, former Supreme Intimidator, he supposed, looked at this unremarkable human who had just dismantled 10,000 years of civilization with breath mints and workplace anecdotes. "What will I do now?" he asked quietly. "Intimidation is all I know." David pulled out his wallet and handed Zilax a business card. "Tell you what, my company's always looking for conflict resolution specialists. You've obviously got experience reading people, understanding psychology, managing high-stress situations. That's transferable skills. Plus, we're going interspecies now, apparently. Could use someone who understands alien perspectives." He smiled. "I run training workshops sometimes. Communication, de-escalation, customer service fundamentals. You're welcome to sit in. Might give you some ideas." Zilax stared at the card like it was a lifeline, which perhaps it was. "A workshop," he repeated. I would like that." "Great, I'll send you the details." David checked his watch. "Oh man, I really do need to go. Dinner reservation, remember? Plus my mom's calling later and I do not want to miss that. She gets way scarier than you guys, no offense." He waved cheerfully at the assembled beings who had just experienced the greatest paradigm shift in Imperium history. "Nice meeting, everyone. This was definitely the weirdest Tuesday I've had in a while." As he walked toward the exit, the entire council chamber remained silent, watching the human leave. "Tuesdays," Caldra whispered into her recorder. "He called this a Tuesday." The paradigm had shifted, the universe had changed, and David Martinez had a dinner reservation to keep. 3 weeks later, the Crovar Imperium's Central Council convened in the same chamber where their world had ended, and perhaps begun anew. Caldra stood at the podium, her historical documentation now officially titled The Great Humbling, a comprehensive analysis of first contact protocol failure and subsequent systemic reformation. "The restructuring is proceeding ahead of schedule," she reported, though restructuring felt like an inadequate word for the complete dismantling of their civilization's foundational principles. "All intimidation-based protocols have been archived under classification, ineffective against Deathworld species. The new framework, Request-Based Interaction Protocol, has been distributed across all 72 sectors." Councilmember Jotaro nodded slowly. "And the Intimidation Corps?" "Repurposed as the Diplomatic Communication Division. They're currently undergoing retraining." Caldra pulled up a holographic display. "Supreme Intim, former Supreme Intimidator Zilax, has enrolled in Human David Martinez's customer service training program. His progress is remarkable, actually. He says the breathing exercises help." In a smaller training room adjacent to the council chamber, Zilax stood before a class of 20 former master intimidators, all of them looking distinctly uncomfortable in their new uniforms, business casual, as David had recommended. "Remember," Zilax said, his voice carrying none of its former cosmic dread, and all of the practiced patience he'd learned over 3 weekly video calls with David. "When someone is upset, they usually just want to be heard. Your job isn't to frighten them into submission. It's to acknowledge their concerns and find mutually beneficial solutions." Rahel raised a hand tentatively. "But what if they become aggressive?" "Then you stay calm, maintain professional boundaries, and use your de-escalation training." Zilax smiled, something that had taken 2 weeks to learn how to do without looking menacing. "Trust me, it's much less exhausting than projecting existential dread for hours." The class murmured agreement. Several students were already reporting reduced stress levels and better sleep cycles. Back in the council chamber, the report continued. "We've received formal requests from 47 species for human conflict resolution consultants," Caldra said. "Apparently, word has spread about humanity's psychological resilience and practical approach to problem-solving. The humans are calling it the Deathworld Advantage." "Have we confirmed the rumors about other human capabilities?" Vexthul asked nervously. Caldra nodded grimly. "Yes. We've analyzed Earth's historical records. Humans have survived. Ice ages lasting thousands of years, supervolcano eruptions, asteroid impacts, multiple extinction-level plagues, and something they call the Bronze Age collapse, where their entire civilization fell apart and they just built new ones." She paused. "They've also survived each other, their own species. For their entire existence, humans have been humanity's greatest threat, and they're still somehow cooperative and social. The psychological fortitude required for that is beyond our measurement scales." The ancient fear masters, attending the council session for the first time in centuries, sat in contemplative silence. The void that hungers finally spoke. "We have lived for 3 millennia believing we understood the nature of fear and power. One human with breath mints and customer service experience taught us we understood nothing." Its voice carried something new, humility. "This is not defeat, this is education, painful but necessary. Human David's company has accepted an intergalactic consulting contract," Kyldra continued. They'll be providing training services to interested species. The payment they requested was surprisingly modest. How modest? Jotaro asked. Market rate for corporate consulting, plus travel expenses. When we offered them exclusive trade agreements and territorial concessions, David said, and I quote, "Nah, we're good. Just pay the invoice within 30 days, please." The council sat in stunned silence at such reasonable negotiation tactics. They're also asking if we validate parking. Do we have parking? Vexthul asked. We do now. I ordered it installed yesterday. A notification chimed across the chamber. Kyldra checked her display and her expression shifted to something between amusement and residual trauma. Human David is here for his follow-up consultation session with Zilax. He's in the facility now. As if summoned by his name, David Martinez walked into the council chamber holding a coffee cup with the logo of a place called Dunkin' Donuts and what appeared to be a paper bag of food. "Hey everyone," he called cheerfully, waving. "Sorry, am I early? I finished my last call ahead of schedule. Customer just needed a password reset, super quick." He checked his watch, a purely analog device that seemed almost quaint compared to the advanced chronometers the aliens used. "Oh man, I didn't realize how late it is. My shift technically ended an hour ago. Gonna have to put in for overtime." He laughed. "Not that I'm complaining. This consulting gig is actually pretty interesting. Plus the commute's way better than my usual drive." Zilax emerged from the training room, and his face brightened in a way that would have been unthinkable a month ago. "David, excellent timing. I wanted to discuss the role-playing exercise you suggested. My students are struggling with the angry customer scenario." "Oh yeah, that's a tough one." David pulled a chair over, his own chair now somehow that had simply appeared in the council chamber, and no one had questioned it. "You want to run through it?" "I can play the angry customer. I've got about 20 minutes before I need to head out." "You're leaving?" Kyldra asked, and hated how disappointed she sounded. David's presence had become oddly reassuring. When he was around, things felt manageable. "Yeah, dinner plans. There's this taco place about 15 minutes from here. Well, 15 minutes with traffic, which is surprisingly reasonable for this sector. You guys have way better traffic management than Earth." He pulled out his phone. "I can send you the location if anyone wants to check it out. Seriously good tacos. The owner's from Mexico City. Real authentic stuff." He was recommending restaurants to the council that had tried to intimidate him into submission. And somehow, 3 council members were taking notes. David's phone rang. The ringtone was something called Classic Marimba, cheerful and completely mundane. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor changed. The casual confidence evaporated, his shoulders tensed, his eyes widened slightly with something the aliens had never seen from him before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh no, it's Tuesday. She never calls on Tuesday unless—" He answered the phone with trembling hands. "Hi, Mom." The voice that came through the speaker was pleasant, warm, maternal. "David, honey. Did you forget something?" Every being in the council chamber felt the temperature drop despite no actual change in environmental conditions. I don't think so." David's voice had gone up half an octave. "Your cousin Maria's birthday party. This Saturday. I sent you the invitation 3 weeks ago." David's face went pale. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I've been traveling for work. The warmth in her voice acquired an edge that made the ancient fear masters lean away from the phone. "That's nice, honey. I'm sure your cousin will understand when you explain that work was more important than family." "I'll be there," David said quickly. "I'll definitely be there." "I wouldn't miss it." "What time should I?" 4 o'clock. "And David? Don't forget to bring a gift this time, something thoughtful. Not a gift card." "Yes, ma'am, yes, Mom, thoughtful gift." "Got it. That's my boy. Love you, sweetheart. See you Saturday." "Love you too, Mom." The call ended. David sat very still for a moment, then let out a long breath. Okay, that was fine. I can handle this. Thoughtful gift for Maria by Saturday. She likes books? Maybe books. I'll figure it out. He looked up to find every alien in the chamber staring at him with expressions of horrified recognition. What? Zilak spoke carefully. David, that was intimidation. Highly effective psychological manipulation employing guilt, disappointment, and social obligation. What? No, that was just my mom. David paused. Wait, is that what you guys were trying to do? Because, oh, wow. Yeah, okay, I guess that is kind of similar. But it's different when it's your mom. You can't just not care when your mom's disappointed in you. That stays with you forever. Kyldra was writing frantically. Note for historical record. Humans possess natural immunity to external intimidation, but remain vulnerable to familial guilt-based psychological pressure. Further research needed on mom phenomenon. She seems terrifying, the void that hungers said with something approaching awe. She's the best, David said firmly. Raised 3 kids mostly on her own, worked 2 jobs, never missed a school event. She's amazing. Also, yes, terrifying. Both things are true. He stood up, collecting his coffee and paper bag. All right, I really do need to go. Zelax, same time next week? And hey, you're doing great with the training. I saw some of your progress reports. Really solid improvement on active listening skills. Thank you, David. Next week works perfectly. David headed for the exit, then paused and turned back. Oh, and just so you guys know, this whole thing, he gestured vaguely at the council chamber, the diplomatic revolution, the complete restructuring of galactic governance. Definitely interesting, but not even top 10 weirdest work experiences. Number 7 is still the time a customer service call turned out to be a wrong number from a police hostage negotiation. That was a wild afternoon. He waved cheerfully and left. The council chamber remained silent for a full minute. His planet, Jotaro finally said, intimidates its inhabitants so thoroughly that they consider galactic paradigm shifts to be moderately interesting work anecdotes. Yes, Kyldra confirmed, and we tried to scare them. Yes. We're idiots. Comprehensive idiots, Kyldra agreed. I'm documenting it thoroughly so future generations can learn from our failure. Zelax returned to his classroom, where 20 former intimidators waited to learn how to say, I understand your frustration, without making it sound like a threat. Outside, David Martinez climbed into his rental vehicle, pulled up directions to the taco place, and called his sister to ask what kind of books Maria liked these days. Just another Tuesday. The universe had changed forever, and somewhere, a human mother had successfully employed the disappointed parent look over a phone call. The ancient fear masters took notes.